Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Randy Burke,
Here.
Commissioner Darren Indovina,
Here.
Commissioner Ken Gaspar.
Here.
Can everyone please rise as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to stand up for this. The microphone's down here, so I'll speak loud. Welcome to our council meeting tonight. At the exact same time as our council meeting is being heard tonight at 6 p.m., there's two visitations for two Monett and Barry County residents that I wanted to make aware, bring to light. Both visitations are going on exactly right now for two very important people to our county. Mr. Mark Pennington, who is the father of our fire captain Brandon Pennington, at 64 years of age, lost his life. He was a city employee with Lawrence County Sheriff, Barry Lawrence County Ambulance District. From 83 to 98, he was with the Monett Police Department, and since then he's held jobs in the private sector. Brandon Pennington is the son, and he is, along with his grandfather, Mr. Mark Pennington's father, has been serving Monett for decades, and I wanted to make light of their loss. And your Barry County Northern Commissioner Gary Schad, who just got reelected last month for his 4th term in office, unfortunately lost his wife, Miss Sarah Schad, of only 49 years of age. They're both his people are being laid to rest tomorrow. Tonight is their visitation. I'm unable to go. I wanted to have a moment of silence, if I may, for a moment, just to share recognition for these great Barry County and Monettans who have been with us for many, many, many decades. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, you approved the agenda. Any additions for the agenda?
No, I'll move that we approve the agenda.
Okay, I'll second.
Roll call.
Mayor Randy Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Darren Indovina,
Aye.
Commissioner Ken Gaspar.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to regular business, the consent agenda. That includes the meetings and approval of the monthly bills.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mayor Randy Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Darren Indovina,
Aye.
Commissioner Ken Gaspar.
Aye.
All right, next item on the agenda is the first and second reading and approval of ordinance 9024, an ordinance approving aviation project consultant supplemental agreement with Javiation Incorporated for the construction management services for the second phase of the runway project at the Monett Regional Airport.
I'll move that we approve bill number 9024.
I'll second.
Discussion, any discussion? Yeah, this is for some cost overruns at phase 2 at the airport. And so we're going to finish that out, and then we'll get reimbursed for the amount, which is $238,000. We'll get reimbursed because of the federal grant. That's what this is for. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Randy Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Darren Indovina,
Aye.
Commissioner Ken Gaspar.
Aye.
Kelly, can you read C? I need to think. I can't read and think at the same time. Just go ahead and read the items, if you would, please.
Read C.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
Let me just let me pull it up. Discussion and consideration of approval regarding interim transfer of emergency management functions to David Compton, Berry County E&D.
Any motions?
We're, okay, before discussion, we'll make a motion. I make a motion to approve. Item C, discussion.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Mr. Dave Compton is here. He is the Berry County Emergency Manager. He has agreed to take this job at the city temporarily. He's an emergency management professional. And what will happen there, the way he's compensated, is we get a grant. And there's a list of things we need to do. One of them is exercise. He's going to get us up to speed on the exercises and hit that grant. His term will align with the state budget. So until June, would you like to say anything, Dave?
Well, so yeah, I appreciate the council and Kelly having asked me to step in. We're more than happy to do that. Like I say, our goal will be to just continue the good work that's already been done, and in the interim position, support the city and get us up to speed. We have a few things that need to be up to speed. We have a couple projects that we're working on for flood control. I've been actively involved in working with those. The state grant, I've been actively involved in working on getting Monett state grant closed out from last year. Really wasn't much left just to close out. A little bit of paperwork to be done to close out, and then we'll be getting this year's grant started. We've already talked about some training we're going to make available to the city council to bring the council up to speed on required federal training, as well as some exercises that we're planning to do. So, well, there's a lot of work. You guys have seen the document of the tasks involved. I'm more than happy to do that. Like I say, being a resident of Monett just makes it a little more personal to me to be able to step in and help the city, and I'm more than happy to do that. And I want to say a special thank you to Kelly. Kelly McMillan has been the emergency manager for the past couple of years and has done a great job, but she's agreed to take on additional tasks at the city, so I'm happy to step in and help where I can, and this is where I can help. So I appreciate your support, and I look forward to working with everybody in the city.
You come highly endorsed by both the chiefs of police and fire.
Oh, well, thank you, guys. Lunch is on me. Well, thank you guys very much. If there's, you guys know how to get a hold of me. If you have questions, feel free to reach out, and I'll set some times up where we'll try to have a regular cadence of meetings where I'm meeting with city officials on a regular cadence to make sure that I'm informed and to make sure that they're informed, so that we can all be working together as a team that we need to be. So,
All right.
thank you, guys.
Welcome to the city.
Thank you very much.
Well, this was just a discussion, right? There's no approval of the contract yet. It's not on the agenda to approve.
Okay. Oh, it's just consideration. Oh, I see.
Do we have that?
Do we have the contract? David, do you have the contract?
We would need in order to continue to be compliant with the grant, we would want to make this an exempt part-time position. That way we are in line with what was written for the grant back in June. So a contract would put us out of compliance. Now, if we want to consider a contract in the next year, if the interim position needs to be redone and we need to work on something, we can do that. But right now, that would not be in the best interest
Yeah,
of the city.
you're right. I had forgotten that we had gone that route, so I apologize. Yes.
All right, so it's already done, right?
Well, you just have to go through the onboarding as an employee to the city, Monett.
Yes.
We don't have to vote before you do onboarding, so.
No.
Okay, item D, please.
Discussion regarding updating the city's contract with Roger A. Day.
I'll make a motion to discuss this contract with Roger Day. He is going to assist the city. It has been for years, and he's going to renew his contract with him. He's going to help our building and zoning department and help us in construction projects moving forward. His contract is up for renewal, and we have discussed retaining his services.
Yeah, excuse me, Mr. Day is currently under contract with the city of Monett. This contract that's before you right now is to update it to a more current version. What we just need to do is just kind of give a verbal authorization to provide it to Mr. Day
let him look it over. If there's any negotiating that he needs to do, then we'll approve it at a subsequent meeting.
Okay, yeah, I read the contract, thanks for the work on that, it looks pretty good to me, covers all the angles. Okay, so we'll vote on this the next time,
Well,
after we got the contract, right?
I'll just ask Kelly if she can get that to Roger. Do you have his contact information?
I can get it.
I
Yeah.
can get that to you, so we just need to give it to Roger, let him look it over. Don't know if he's gonna have an attorney look it over for his review, then, but once he's good and he signs it, gets it back to us, and then we will go on an agenda for approval.
Okay, item E,
Discussion and decision on authorized signers for large city projects.
yeah, what this will do is, we had the former city administrator to be a signer for big projects, and we're talking about the Central Avenue Improvement Project, the Chapel Hill Overdrive, big stuff. And so all we're doing is authorizing me to be a signer of those documents.
So entirely until we have an interim or a...
Until we got another administrator, yeah. They'll go back to the administrator as soon as we get one.
So what's the motion here? The motion is here just to replace
Yes, that's
you
one.
with Chris as an authorized signer
That's
for
right.
projects. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll move that we replace Chris Weiner with Mayor Randy Burke as an authorized signer for large projects.
Will there need to be a board approval for any of these contracts that come forward?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's just changed, just authorizing him to be a signatory.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, call the roll, please.
Mayor Randy Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Darren Andavino.
Aye.
Commissioner Ken Gessler.
Aye.
Okay, item F.
Discussion and consideration of decision to proceed with acquisition bid for the Central Avenue Improvement Project.
And this is really discussion and consideration. I think we'll need to bring this to the vote. If you look at the slides that are on the screens out there, that's what I'll be talking about. The Central Avenue Improvement Project. And remember, this will be decided by the voters on the November election, okay? That will always be the case. Now, acquisition day, that's when we begin negotiation with property owners that are going to be impacted by the roundabout part of the project. And that is determined by the federal government, and it's not yet established, but it should be established here in the next 4 days. Now, we discussed this on the working session out at North Park, where Dave made us sit there in very hot weather. What we discussed then and what we're going to do now is the strategy is to negotiate, but not purchase any of the property. Now, we'll vote on this tonight on the strategy because we can provide it to the federal government and MoDOT on the official position of the city. And the strategy, what this strategy does is regardless of the outcome on the ballot, it's going to minimize the risk or cost to the city. Now, next slide, please. Now, here's the two outcomes of the election. The petition passes. That means that the roundabout will be prohibited at Central and Broadway, and that's yes when you vote on the ballot. And right now, the money, we budgeted over $1 million to acquire the property. And if the petition passes, the roundabout is prohibited. And so then we're going to have to renegotiate our contract with, for the CIP with both MoDOT and contract negotiation. So that's if the petition passes, that's a yes vote. If the petition fails, that's a no vote. That means the Central Avenue Improvement Project proceeds as planned. Right now, we've already spent about $1 million. I think everyone's heard this. We already spent $1 million in city money. in the preps, a lot of utility work down there close to the intersection. And there's also 2 million, maybe 2.1 mil of MoDOT money that still remains. That's programmed, not spent. But if the petition, we'll lose that money if the petition passes, saying no roundabout. We'll have to renegotiate. So that would leave remaining expenses of the city money to about 4.5 million. And any delays to the project incur risk, and that's why as soon as we get the A-Day, we'll be as close as we can to pulling the trigger on the project. Because every time it moves to the right, that's risk, that's cost, and that's more delays. And there are some things in there, Kevin Sprinkle explained it to me, but you do something and then you get it set, but it's only good for, it has an expiration date. So that's why I wanted to do the vote tonight on this strategy and send a letter to MoDOT and the federal government saying the city council agrees to this strategy and this is our strategy. So, any other discussion? Any motions?
Any public discussion?
I don't think it needs public discussion, but I don't think it needs a vote either. Can we just agree to proceed? Because there's no resolution or anything here.
Okay.
I don't believe that it needs a vote. I think we can just.
As long as we all agree, and because if we do the A-Day before the election, it'll come off city letterhead to those that are going to be affected by the roundabout. We're not going to buy it, and we know that the vote is by the people is going to determine which way we go here. So I guess this was more information. You're right, we needed a resolution, but yes?
You want me to go to the podium or ask questions from here?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. For starters, this wasn't discussed at your last workshop, is that correct?
No, it was. It was the one on 25 July.
Yeah, we attended that meeting, and the city administrator just mentioned the A date. There was no discussion as to a time definite. And at that time, the city administrator just informed the council that he hadn't received any word about an A date. So in terms of the public wasn't aware that this was coming up. So there's that. Secondly, you mentioned a timetable. So the next question is, once the A date starts, once the negotiation starts, isn't there a ticking clock?
There is a clicking clock,
of time
and Kevin's, I believe that's 60 days.
Okay, so my argument or my concern is that you're putting undue pressure, undue duress to the property owners because they won't know the outcome of the election yet. So how can they're not negotiating with all the cards on the table because they don't know what that outcome's going to be. So they don't know if they're under the gun to try to unload their property or if they should hang on to their property because it might be a positive outcome for them. Okay. So there's that element. And then could you roll back there?
Sorry.
The A date itself, you mentioned that it's not up to us or you all, that the A date is determined by the federal government. Now, isn't it true that the A date is just a start date? That doesn't mean you have to negotiate the price on the day of the A date. That's a beginning date.
Yes.
So there's a length of time.
Yes.
I don't know that there's a time limit on that you have to negotiate. So just because the federal government sets an A date, that just isn't, my understanding is, that's just your go-ahead. I mean, they're just saying you can start on this date. They're not saying you have to start on this date. So again, my argument would be, it would be best to wait until after the election before you start the negotiations. So anyway, in conclusion, I would just say, number one, there wasn't an adequate enough notification to the public that you were considering this. Number two, it puts the property owners under undue duress, not knowing what the outcome of the election is going to be. And then thirdly, I would just strongly recommend that you do not decide to do this tonight.
I have a question. I don't think the federal government's reaching out to the property owners before the election. Am I saying that right?
No, we're saying that to reach out and start negotiations as soon as we can, so.
Before the election?
No.
I have a question on the property. On this, you're saying that the only property involved is the roundabout. I apparently misunderstood, but I thought there were some properties up Central that are going to be involved that needs maybe some.
I don't think there's any on Central. There are certainly some who will be impacted on Central, but I don't think there's any property there. I think I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
Then did I understand you to say that once the A date is announced, which you're expecting within the next few days, once that is determined, that Kevin told you there's a time element of 60 days?
I think it's 60 days, yeah.
And since the election is going to be before that, what's the rush right now?
Risk to the project. I mean, every time you push it back to the right, so why not go ahead?
And I appreciate that, but since this project's been in process for 9 years, what's another 120 days?
It's 120 days.
On this, by the way, today they said inflation is down, so maybe if you hold off, we'll get it for a better price than we would tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm still confused, sorry everybody, as to the property owners. I'm sorry to bring into this, Mr. Kevin, but will they be brought to the table in 4 days according to this document?
Well, there it is. There's Kevin.
I think there needs some clarification. At this point, we've been waiting and talking about getting an A date, their acquisition date for the project. And so we don't, once the federal government, FHWA and MoDOT approves the environmental assessment, which we did get that clearance yesterday, then the city actually submits a formal document to MoDOT requesting an A date to be established, which usually takes anywhere from 10 to 12, 14 days to get that back. Because they have to review all the information that's contained on there. There's 2 pages of information that's you have to list based on their requirements. Then once you get that notification back from MoDOT, then you officially have an A date or authorization to start acquiring right-of-ways. And so at this point, the letter to MoDOT, which normally comes from the sponsor of the agency, would be the city, and you submit that document to MoDOT, they review it, then we wait. And it can be as short as a week or less, but usually it's within 10 to 14 days till we get that back. And then once that's back, then you basically have the okay to start any right-of-way negotiations, which the city has already hired Olson to do the negotiations and relocation assistance. So you've got them under contract, which you've had them on hold for quite some time now. And so then that's, at that point, once you get that A date, that's when it's okay to start. There's really no time limit, but the longer things stretch out, the more, things get concerned about what's going to happen. If you proceed with or don't proceed with it for a while, then you can actually run the risk after 2 years of having to redo the appraisals, because they could change at that point once that happens. So that's kind of does that make better sense?
Yeah. That's,
So it'll be weeks, a couple of weeks.
It could be. I mean,
I won't let us go out to any property owners.
well, no,
This is
that's
just a
not
request for
true.
acquisition date.
Once you get that date, then we'll sit down and say, okay, are you ready to start the negotiations? Because there's there's a formal procedure that your negotiator, Olson, has to follow to meet federal guidelines. We just don't randomly do this. There's processes, so we have to follow those procedures, and at that point, we'll sit down with Olson and, say, if you're ready to start negotiations, then they have to prepare formal letters. There's formal documents that has to be presented. There's attachments, exhibits that has to be prepared, which most of those have been prepared in order to ready to start the A date for acquisition once that starts. Once the authorization is given to go ahead.
Once the authorization given to go ahead, that's the 60 days you said?
No, it's the 60 days. There's requirements in the right-of-way, the Uniform Relocation Act that requires, MoDOT has a 60-day notice that typically goes in there when the first batch of documents goes out. Not that they have to go in there, but there's steps that you have to follow in the LPA manual on how this is done, and all that stuff is online if anybody wants to look at it. But there's procedures. I mean, I'm an approved MoDOT negotiator, so that's why I always like to follow the guidelines and what it says, so make sure everybody understands that when we start that process.
Kevin, did you need a resolution for us to approve tonight in order to go ahead with this request?
No, because the A date request has been talked about. I mean, it's
Part of the project.
part of the project. Trans Systems has prepared a document that can be submitted, and then you send it into MoDOT, let them review it, then it comes back. And then, at that point in time, that's what I would want to sit down with council again and say, hey, what's your thoughts of this? Because Olson is on hold at this point until we give them authorization to start the process. Now, that doesn't mean they haven't started assembling packets, because we have 77 property owners that we're dealing with. There's 11 acquisitions of full takes, partial takes, drainage easements. So the 11 that's affected by that, give or take a couple in there, that's the first process, because it involves true right-of-way acquisitions. The other 70, which are temporary construction easements, all the way up to Cleveland Avenue, they're temporary construction easements that I'll be handling those myself once that time comes. There's still utility relocations that's got to be done. Skip's got some water lines that we will have to move, and assuming whatever happens down the road in November will dictate which direction that we proceed with utility relocation. That makes sense?
Okay.
I just wanted to comment that July 25th meeting is on videotape, so anybody can go look at that if they want to. And in that tape, the city administrator commented that they expected to have an A date a year ago. So it's not like this is all of a sudden happening and that we can't wait 100 days. They've been waiting for this A date for a year, according to the city administrator.
Okay.
60 days.
2 months. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to proceed, we're going to confer with council. So dates are set as of now.
No, all this is to do is to request for the acquisition date to be given to us. That's it. There is no acquisition date yet. There are no negotiations yet. It's just to request the acquisition date to be given to us.
That's fine. Okay, thank you.
May I ask for clarification? You keep saying the acquisition date. That's the beginning, not the completion. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, because when you say acquisition, it sounds like we're going to do it on that day. As
Just like
opposed to
D-Day.
beginning
D-Day
it
starts
on
on
that
D-Day.
day.
This starts on A-Day.
Oh,
Also, I'd like to clarify, because it was my understanding, based on what the city administrator previously said, was that the acquisition, they requested the acquisition date a year ago. So it's not, this isn't about requesting an acquisition date. This is moving forward with the negotiations. You're voting on whether to, once, no, you're not even voting. But once you get an approved A date, what you're discussing doing here tonight is moving forward with the negotiations, correct?
Correct.
And that's what I think is wrong.
Yeah, and we can negotiate, we can find out whether it's yes or no.
Exactly.
Okay.
Do we need further discussion?
Yeah, Debbie?
I just want to add, somebody else mentioned pressuring some of those people that you would be letting have those letters into, you know, whether or not, what they want to do with their property. But in the public's eyes, it could also be, I don't know, but considered buying a boat to go ahead with the project. So I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm just saying you might want to be cautious about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
All right, we're moving on to public comments, not that we haven't already had some. I talked to Mr. Bruce Shane this morning. He's going to send his issues in writing, and so we'll address them. We're not going to address them here. All right. Informational items, monthly departmental reports.
Oh, we've all been sent the packet and all of the reports in it. Does it need an approval to a second? No, okay.
These are informational items. July financial report. Any issues?
No questions.
Okay. The next city council meeting, it's going to be a working session. It will be on the 25th this month, and that's going to be in the lobby of the Monett Regional Airport. The theme there is going to be economic development. There's a few things that we plan to discuss. TIF 3 will be on the discussion, some things out at the airport, and I think that's about it right now. But we'll have a presentation from on the TIF 3 from our economic development person that we contract. His name is Steve Etcher. Any other comments?
No.
No.
Okay. And then the next city council meeting here, the regular session, will be on the October 10th, 6 p.m. All right. Any motions?
I'll move that we convene to closed section pursuant to section 610.21 through 610.22 of the Missouri Revised Statute to discuss attorney-client privilege and real estate.
I'll second.
Call a roll, please.
Mayor Randy Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Darren DeVito,
Aye.
Commissioner Ken Hensley,
Aye.